Welcome to God Hockey Episode 2. Today, I talked to Kirk Allen from Warrior Hockey. We talked a lot about the upcoming G5 line and also got to touch on a little bit of what goes into designing gear and how it goes from concept to completion. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you'll be notified when more content is available. And now enjoy Episode 2, Kirk Allen from Warrior Hockey. So, let's start at the beginning then. You're a Michigan kid. Obviously, good hockey community. What started you off? Where'd you get your start? Where did it take you?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in the General Flint area in Michigan. I got started on the ice actually from my mom when I was around 2, playing novice. She was a ringette player. And that's how I got into the ice. My dad didn't play ice hockey, and that's really where it started. And then around 8 years old, 3rd grade, is when I jumped in the net. Heavy influence as a Patrick Waugh fan.
Mm-hmm.
Was pretty brave as an 8-year-old.
In Michigan too. Yeah, that was a good rivalry.
Around Detroit, I definitely caught some flack for that. Both attending games from teachers, you name it. So, which made it fun, and I kind of liked that adversity and rooting for the villains. So. It really just stemmed from the love for Patrick Waugh and going from there, loving it in the equipment. So
nice. You played obviously all the way up. At some point in your hockey playing career, you realized you're not going to be Patrick Waugh. You're Kirk Allen, and you are who you are, and your playing days, so to speak, are behind you. And along the road, somehow, somewhere, you find yourself back into the hockey industry. And how did you get started off that? You did coaching, you did some other things like that.
Yeah. So I, later on in high school, getting out of like AAA hockey and going towards high school hockey, I really didn't have a huge drive to pursue juniors, and I really wanted to get started in college. And the ACHA was a great avenue for me to do that. And I started to go to university and the Flint area at U of M Flint and playing hockey competitively there, but starting to use that opportunity with my time to network in the hockey industry, being connected with a local retailer, getting an opportunity to do internships with brands, and kind of leverage my ability as a youth hockey coach in connection with parents and goaltenders and provide that direct feedback, the grassroots feedback to brands, and kind of being a little bit of a road warrior, so to speak, and going to events and just kind of getting started, getting my foot in the door, meeting people. And luckily for me, during college years, you have the ability to be flexible and nimble like that. And it just naturally progressed over the course of a few years to becoming a product manager at Warrior Goalie. So extremely thankful. And looking back, you can see how everything aligns, but in the moment, I just knew that I wanted to pursue a career in hockey, and playing wasn't going to be the course. So trying to tie that passion of coaching and parents and equipment all into one. So that's kind of how I got started. Yeah.
Yeah. So you end up. So when did you start with when did you start with Warrior?
I started. I've been in the hockey industry since 2012. And I started with Warrior in mid to late 2013.
Okay.
And then I was doing an internship type role with Warrior as a goalie tech rep, you could summarize it as, until 2015 is when I came on full time as product manager. So today my role is product manager. I work on social media, sales. I come to visit your store anytime you have an event, demos. I'm kind of the resource between pro and the product team and all sorts of stuff, because we're a big brand. We're a global brand.
Of course,
a lot of success in Europe as well as in North America. And I'm just kind of the person that someone would go to make sure that Warrior Goalie always has one voice and one clear message.
Yeah.
Whether it's to a dealer like yourself or to an end customer who's 12 or a parent. So.
Right. Exactly. Well, I know you are kind of one of the guys who is somewhat active on some of the socials, even that I take part in. Those are sometimes tricky to navigate, but I think you seem to do it. You have a pretty good balance with being available, but also not having to be not being like front and center as a advertising agent or something like that.
Right.
So we
Yeah, I like that about my job. It's I know at times my phone starts dinging a little later at night than I would
yeah.
hope, but especially with a 2-year-old. But no, it's what I enjoy, and that's what we value here at Warrior with Pete and Neil and Roger, is the direct conversation to a customer of, goaltending equipment. We don't take it lightly to know that it's an investment. It's a lot different than buying an elbow pad from for a lot
Absolutely.
of reasons. And so, parents and goalies are looking for quality and longevity. What is this product going to look like and feel like in 16 months from now? So, I mean, and the only way to get that really is from customers who invest their hard-earned money in it and rely upon the equipment to perform and to last. So I really do enjoy that about my job. I think it gives me and the rest of the crew an opportunity to make performance enhancements, but also stuff that's valuable. It's
Right.
providing value to the goalie is really what it's all about.
Yeah, I think you've cracked that code a little bit of find something you love to do, get someone to pay you for it. You'll never work a day in your life. I know obviously there's I mean I'm the same. I love fitting kids for skates, and I love someone coming in with a 5 or 6 year old who's he wants to be a goalie. What do I need? Like that kind of stuff is great. And there's always stuff you don't like about going to work, but it's very rewarding, especially when it's you and I are kind of like hockey lifers, I guess, if you want to call it. Like it's been major parts of our lives, and it'll be for most of the guests I have. I kind of think that's the idea here. So you touched a little bit about working in a group. So obviously everybody knows Pete Smith, or generally most people know Pete Smith. He's one of, we're talking the 80s, 90s. He's one of the early, I guess you want to call visionaries of, even going back to the original synthetic days, but a box pad, a pad with a flat line on it, a pad with a straight edge, a pad that rotates on your leg. What is this? What is this all about? So, obviously people do know Pete, and people know you, and then there's two other members of your group essentially. Do you want to maybe just touch on that? What it's like working in the group, and how having those four voices, how that helps turn out the product?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of the job is working with those guys. Pete is our category manager, and visionary is really kind of the best way to put it. Not only for his ability to see the product and innovate and things like that, but his vision for the category and for Warrior Goalie as a brand. One thing is a big thing that a lot of people look at is that we're not in the NHL, and they ask why. And that really was a decision that we made as a brand years ago to focus on the product and the R&D, and to ultimately develop trust with goalies. Warrior Goalie is a younger goalie brand. And so we don't have decades of trust that a parent grew up wearing this and now their son or daughter wearing this. And so when we started out and the rubber hit the road and we're in the NHL and we've got a handful of guys, and it wasn't the right timing and the right approach for us to start a category and without the grassroots foundation. So that vision that we've had as a group, and eventually we'll go back to the NHL, but it was the understanding of that the NHL is a measure of success, and it's a key to success, but it's not the only measure of success. It's not the only key to get there. Like we do incredibly well with younger goalies, with elite goalies in Europe, and that's strictly because of our brand and our product and the features that it offers. So to kind of wrap it back to Pete, though, is just the vision that he has. and then also working with Neil and Roger, who are on the R&D team, and the stuff that they do day in and day out with this project here, the mask. This was far from an overnight project. This was years and years of research and development time. So that was incredible for me to play a part in and to watch and learn from them. And I think that what makes us a great group is we have the ability to listen to each other. You know, it's not one person kind of forces their way. It's Pete and Neil and Roger listen to my feedback just as much as they would listen to each other's as designers. I can't use a sewing machine or tell you how to design the back of a leg pad, but I can portray, you know, what I see online and what customers are saying and going on the road. And so, and that's where the whole thing works together really well for us. Is that we kind of just sit down and we talk weekly together, so, most of the time daily, but about what's going on and what are people saying, and you know, what is customer service seeing, and how can we you know fix something or change something for future iterations. So the wheel really just keeps rolling for us, and
that's great.
It's exciting to see the product advancements.
Well, it's a great way to do it. It's obviously you know, having a few voices.
Yeah,
you don't get that sort of myopic view of things where you want to do this and this is your vision.
right.
So obviously that kind of helps it along. So let's even say someone has an idea that they want to do on a pad. So they just bring it to the group. Guys, are we missing something here? And then we just kind of hash it out. And
Yeah, you know, I don't know, Pete says this, I don't know if he created the saying or not, but it's one that we sort of hold true and always bring front and center is innovation is not something you just come up with. It's you recognize or identify a problem, and innovation comes from the result of solving that problem. So if a pad doesn't seal the ice well, you don't just brainstorm an innovation. You work through iterations and different development samples of solving that problem with a piece of equipment, and the end result is the innovation. And ultimately for us, it's all about performance and mobility, all those key attributes of product. But I think is great about ours too is it's very modular. We understand that there's performance benefit that comes from a certain feature, but that feature might not be something a goalie likes. An outside knee wing, for example, we were the first brand to make that piece simply removable by just 2 clips.
Yep.
And now everybody has it laced in. And so like stuff like that is what we work through, and ideas come in, and how can we implement this, and how can we do it in a way that doesn't require somebody to get a pair of scissors out and feel like they're potentially risking their investment with
well, it's a good idea when next year it's on everyone else's pads too.
And that happens, and that's exciting.
The one thing I always think of with Pete is when I talk to customers, and if he comes up, or usually when I'm just talking about Warrior, is Pete's always kind of been almost like the mad scientist kind of guy, where I think I just imagine Pete playing goal, or Pete watching a goalie, seeing a puck go in and thinking, what could we have done to stop that? And then he goes into, beautiful mind mode, and he starts coming up. Like there's that little triangular wedge that's on the back outer calf of the pad, and people, you don't notice it, you don't really realize it's there, but what it is, when your knee is bent and you're leaning, that piece, because it's a triangle, is touching the post. So those Gretzky behind the net shots that ring off your calf and fall into the net, well, Pete covered it, and it's like, that's 1 goal a season, but Pete came up with something for it, and so that's like, and I guess, like visionary, really, like he'll take something and he sees it, and that's where that's where I think where like some of his greatest things are. It's like you see these little things, and and sure, I think to a large degree, I don't believe that's really been, copied or that, but all those things that you do, whether it's an elasticized toe and heel strap, which is now customary, which is now on everything. I'm still a bit of a throwback with the toe laces, but I realized that's because I started playing goalie in '84. So that's why I'm surprised I don't use a buckle anymore,
Yeah.
So maybe I'm obviously you did touch a little bit about the NHL. It is very rare, especially to see a brand that you'd find in large retailers without NHL presence. Again, you did for a while. I guess you guys had some amount of success for it, but it is a bit of a chase. And if you aren't well established, I think you're very right in the way you guys approached it, in that you're still really building a brand. You haven't been around since, Patrick Waugh, when you were growing up, he didn't wear Warrior stuff. Warrior during that time was a lacrosse brand, and might not have even been that big of a lacrosse brand even back then. And I think that's a great thing about Warrior, is they have grown. They've done some amazing things to bring in, certainly when they've acquired other brands and when they've brought people in, they've really done a good job of seeing what they need. Hey, we want to make hockey stuff. Okay, well, let's key in on, let's acquire Montreal and let's start making our goalie sticks. And then they bring in a guy like Pete. I think at some point, Warrior was just known as the brand with the funny chest protector. I don't think I've ever had a line, a series of lines of gear that was more contentious than the Stormtrooper chest protectors, which largely are still what they are now, but obviously a lot of parts and a lot of pieces are covered. I know you've got a great new one coming out.
Right.
But the greatest thing about a piece of equipment that someone will pick up and just go, what, is putting it on them, and then they go, oh, you know what? Yeah, this actually is pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and I always found that, like, when you put your arms in, you start to understand why that little hinge is there, and you start to figure out why that big square body with but it wraps all the way around my body and it sits right up on my shoulders and across my collarbone. Oh, and these straps here are to adjust it to actually really suit it to my body while I play. Do you want to maybe show a little bit of that? Now, do you want to pull that out so we can get a bit of a look?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a few generations on now from the ones I'm talking about, but largely the same, I think.
We just released the Ritual X3 line, which for us is new and exciting because the chest protectors have never been a part of the Ritual X family before. So Ritual X is, pants, knee pads, jocks, clavicle protectors, things like that. And we previously would have offered two chest protector families, one that tied with the padding glove with the G5 and then the GT series and things like that. So, but what we've done now is we've brought the features, the benefits really of both, and put them into one chest and arm family. In the mechanical arm, you're never going to find a bigger advocate for that construction than me, for a lot of reasons: the protection, the mobility, the longevity of it. But we've gone at it with a new approach in the Ritual X3. So you'll see like design attributes like AxiFlex, which was the mechanical arm, and we brought that into really a hybrid, is the best way to put it, of the mechanical arm with a conventional, or what people would call cut and sew construction, like the GT2 had, which was also a largely popular arm construction for us. And so on this X3 Pro Plus, you'll notice that it's predominantly a black chest and arm unit. And within the whole chest and arm family, if you recognize that this is predominantly black, then that would signify to you that this unit is more about coverage and protection.
Yep.
You see a chest protector in the Ritual X3 family, like this is the X3 Pro, it's predominantly gray. This has got more mobility attributes to it, a little bit more streamlined in the arm, rounded shoulders, and subsequent to that is it's a little bit of a lighter unit too, compared to the black version in the Pro Plus. So what I mean by hybrid is the great thing about the mechanical arm was its structure. That structure provided so much protection to a goalie. Without the bar, the arm has more tendency to want to shift and bend. And I can show you that in the Pro, which does not have the bar that used to be on like a G5 Pro Plus. And when a puck can impact this, you can see in a cut and sew design, and this is really for any chest protector without the bar, that there's going to be some shifting there, which is great for mobility, and you're bending your elbow and you're twisting and RVHing. And some goalies really, really like that. Other goalies, though, might prefer that structure. Like I really prefer the structure in the arm. I've gotten used to pucks hitting me, and I know when it hits me in the arm, it's going to either stick to my arm or stay in front of me.
Yeah.
With less structure, you have more opportunities.
It's a little bit of guesswork.
Yeah, if they could flutter off to the side or they could shoot out into the corner. But that bar is still inside the elbow.
Okay.
But the hinge mechanism, all the moving parts are gone.
Yeah.
And the way that we replace that is with this gray. You can see the gray. It starts at the wrist and it comes up into the bicep. This is backed with X foam, which is, you can, if you wanted to see it, it's in the crown area of our goalie mask, the yellow foam in there, and also with Hypercomp. So it's super protective piece that goes underneath the elbow floater. So when you bend, the floater can still move forward, just like on the mechanical arm, because this acts like a bridge underneath to bring your elbow forward.
And because it's on the outside, you don't feel it.
No,
and it doesn't stop you from bending your arm. I
right.
think that's a nice key of that.
Yeah, the end goal with protection in mind for the mechanical arm was to bring the face of the protection forward so that you have more gap between where your physical arm is and where the puck impacts is. Most of the time, a way that a chest protector would get beefed up is you just keep layering more and more and more protection. And then you add weight, and then you start to lose that mobility because everything needs the bunch. So the key with all of this, and from the hinge mechanism to the mechanical arm to this new AxiFlex Plus design, is bringing the protection forward to create that gap, so you don't feel that the puck hit you in the arm and have any sort of impact there.
Yeah, I'm big on layering. I think I've always said that to guys I'm fitting. Like, you have to, what you get is you get a layer on top of something. It just hits that top layer, and then you're behind it.
And
so
out on you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's taking away the impact. It's absorbing everything, and it being right up against your body. Now your body's gonna feel it, and if you just keep building it thick and thick and thick, it's not even necessarily gonna be where it protects you more. It's just you're just making it thicker.
Right.
But again, I've always enjoyed seeing what comes out of those lines, because they look obviously a little wild, the early ones, and progressively they've grown as a piece, and now you're really starting to see just even more stuff come along. So I think it's one of the nicer ones. I know right down the line, junior, intermediate, we do very well, because again, it's very easy to move in. Generally speaking, fairly lightweight, and kids can play in them right away. I don't get a kid going, "Oh, I wore this once and I couldn't move." You just don't get that. So it's always a nice to have something to go to pull it off the rack and you go, no matter what, I know this is going to work. If they've already, even if this wasn't what they were looking for, I'm going to throw this one on them and they're going to see that, see that difference.
Yep.
What do you want to show me on the new pad? We're up to G5 now, right?
We are. Yeah. So got a G5 pad here. Airslide was slightly defined for us compared from the G4 to the G5.
Yep.
The bindingless design through here. And for us, this is really all about creating the consistently fast slide.
Yep.
I've never been shy, whether it's on an online forum or anything, to say that every pad on the market slides really well today. But what we like to take a lot of pride in and focus on in the R&D is how does the pad slide in the third period? How does it slide at the end of a practice? Or does that slideability from the day
good ice, bad ice,
or good ice, bad ice? What is it like from obviously in week 2, week 3, the pad is in peak performance still, it's right off the shelf. But what about in month 9, 10, 11? And so Airslide
playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs exactly. Was the approach of creating, less or more room for the snow and all that buildup to travel through the pad, so you have less resistance and more consistency throughout the changing conditions that you're playing in. And then outside of that as well, for us was Coverage Plus, which we took a look at our equipment and really it stemmed from the outer roll where on the G4 we coined what we called the RVH optimized outer roll, which was a way of saying that we lowered the profile of the outer roll. And the goal of doing that was to get a tighter seal from the face of the pad to the post. So if you happen to have a wraparound, I know it's a little challenging to see here, but if you happen to have a wraparound, or if you RVH with your boot inside the post or try to seal up with your shin, there's a certain amount of standoff between the outer roll and the face of the pad. And we were trying to eliminate that gap so that pucks couldn't squeak through. And in doing that, we continued to test a ton of different variations, some with no outer roll at all, some with slightly even less than what the G4 had. And we just found that with reducing the height of that outer roll, we also started to lose coverage of this outer edge of the pad where pucks could, a tight rebound where a guy could shoot the puck or a rebound could happen and it would just graze or just skip the outer edge of the pad. So just the way that a goalie would think about how they, challenge the shooter and maximize their coverage. A lot of goalies assume that, because this pad is 11 inches wide and so is everyone else's, that it covers the same amount of net. And in reality, that's really just not true if you have a lower profile outer roll. So
that's pretty, I think that's interesting because I doubt a lot of guys walking into a shop or browsing a web page are really trying to consider, does the side roll of this pad make it so that there's a gap if I'm up against the post in an RVH? Personally, not a big RVH fan, but a lot of guys do it. And you know what? If you're watching the playoffs currently, I mean, this is June the 22nd. So we're halfway through the third round now, and Andrei Vasilevsky is a great RVH goalie. He's a goalie who plays that style really well, and you see a lot of guys unfortunately get victimized on it with those wraparound type plays, or that play where it's just a shot that hits the shin and bounces into the corner of the net that you're not sealed. So that's it's amazing that that's something that gets thought about in the process that most customers probably aren't even taken into consideration. Sorry, keep going.
You're great, exactly right. And for us, like I said earlier about like the problem solving, and this was really a great example of that, where we saw this problem with the standoff between the face of the pad and the post, and we tried to, we solved it, but we just kept thinking, and what does it affect with your coverage though? And so we brought the outer roll. Clearly, you bring the outer roll more forward, and you're going to have more likelihood that the outer roll will deflect the puck off or try to, on the underside will keep the puck down from skipping over. But then we're back to square one. Now we have the standoff again. So, Pete and Neil and they come up with their ideas, and the idea that we we ended on was raising the face of the pad. So it actually it's not raised really in the thigh rise, and as it progresses down, it raises more and more, so that the standoff of this outer roll is still the same like it would have been on a G4, but now you get the better post seal, plus you get the coverage on the G5. So it's just problem solving continually. And what are people saying? And you know, we look at a lot of development samples.
That's the 3D chess of designing a goalie pad right there.
Exactly.
And but for anyone who's already wearing, you know, any of the G series pads, most of the characteristics that they've known and enjoyed about them are still the same. That open style cradle. You've got the strapping wrapping right around. I always thought that was genius, the way they just have the one large piece that just hugs.
Right.
You know? And
so
it's,
we've always had the idea that, you know, your leg is shaped like a cylinder, and your leg channel should also be shaped in that same way too, because without it, if you just have a flat shin and two pieces coming off, that's what drives goalies, I believe, to require either needing something tight so they get the connectivity, or they go with something wide to get the mobility. And you're almost choosing one or the other,
right.
In doing that. But with a cylindrical approach, like a rounded leg channel like this, you can have it be a wider, more spacious, but because you get the full wrap, you have that connectivity feel. A new thing from the G5 too, and this came from our influence with a lot of our pros in Europe, is the opening right in here to be able to bring this strap through the leg channel. And get it a little tighter too. So if you wanted it more snug in like your lower leg, your ankle, and your shin, to kind of suck the pad in this area in, that will help to do it. And then, like you had mentioned too, in the open knee cradle, the knee drive system, you know, something that we came out with in G2, which would have been 2014. I think it launched at retail. So going on 7 years now that we've had the knee drive system, but it's far from the original construction.
Right.
How we've done that. And the knee drive was really all about understanding the importance of having a stable connection between the block and the back of the pad, so you have no loss of energy transfer going from your stance to your butterfly, and then also so that your knee is resting there to solidify the thigh rise, the top half of the pad. So it's all about integrating it. And if you look closely and you take straps apart, you can see like how it's all intertwined and connected to try to make the most secure feeling pad possible when you're in the butterfly. Or
keeps everything sealed to the ice, keeps all of your weight, your momentum right down on top.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's I mean, always, and that's what again, going back to what we talked about with Pete and finding a way to do things. It's always, I would always say, like, if there's something on that pad, like someone has thought about a need for that piece, and they've engineered it that way, with a benefit in mind. You know, there's not a lot of gimmicks in for some people, what may look like really gimmicky stuff, because it's so unique, and some of the things are just a little out there, but you realize that no, but there are people who are actually contemplating, thinking, testing, and then engineering this into the pad, for that benefit. Let's do this, because this is a new category, and it kind of got hijacked for you guys, obviously, with the pandemic, and probably not a ton of people seeing it. But let's go to masks, because that's something I know. I remember when I first saw it, that when you started bringing them around, it was very interesting. Do you want to talk a little bit about what goes into it, the ideas, where it all came out of, and again, maybe even a little bit about just how long a process it is for a hockey company to design and deploy a helmet?
Right. Well, for us, it started out late 2016, maybe early 2017. It launched in spring of 2020.
Mhm.
So start to shelf would probably be a 3.5 year
Yeah.
project for us, which is a very long one in the R&D world. But again, incredibly exciting. Where I think for us, the key benefit is that we've started from a blank start.
Mhm.
Other masks on the market have distinct shapes and ridges and fits, and have had those same fits for decades now.
Yep.
And it's a very interesting category in the sense that oftentimes things don't change that have been out there for a while, and you've had success with something, you don't change it too much.
Mhm.
So for us, the initial stages was really all exploratory, understanding what is the best mask on the market? Why does someone believe that it's the best mask? And you get a variety of answers. If you speak with a retailer, they might say it's because X, Y, and Z. You talk to an 11-year-old, it might be A, B, and C.
Yep.
And oftentimes too, with the product that's so focused on fit, you had to almost kind of decode or decipher what people are saying. Where people would say, "This one is better because it has a better chin." Is it the chin better because of how it works over your chest protector? Or is it better because it doesn't, squint your cheeks up or sit
Yeah.
over your mouth or something
Did
like that?
somebody else adjust the mask right before you put it on, and it just happens to be in the perfect spot for you, so you think it's the best mask?
I have not. Yeah, I haven't tried this
You know?
one personally, but it's all comes down to that type of stuff.
Mhm.
And so for us, it was really understanding fit and dialing that in and creating something that fits, I think, truly better than what's existed in the market before. We didn't want to come out and be a brand that says, "Oh, we cloned this one because
Mhm.
it's this and this," or "We cloned this brand because that and that and that." We studied every fit on the market. It was like upwards of 30 to 34 helmets, I think, and all the sizes, models, constructions. So a very cool process, a long and enduring one. But it started from that, very anecdotal, and then it gets into more of the computer and CAD work, 3D printing, sampling, clay modeling, all types of stuff that eventually leads up to your first development sample, which then goes through the ringer of impact testing, drop tower testing,
Mhm.
all that stuff. We're very fortunate at Warrior that we have a lot of those testing apparatuses in-house. So we're able to test everything on the fly, every sample that comes through, before sending it off for any type of certification and stuff. So then that was probably the longer process too.
That's its own process. That's at least a year, right?
Right, exactly. So fit was the first and foremost the biggest focus, and then from there protection, and adding value to every price point that we make.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know in the limited time that we were sort of able to see it, and then to actually, I think, have some to even put on heads.
Right.
Generally, it checked out.
Yeah.
I know even for me, I wear a mask that, like, I have a fairly wide cheekbone, not a very big head. So I have certain things on a mask that I look for right away that I know is not necessarily going to be the same for everybody else, but for me, and I know when I put it on, it felt comfortable, certainly felt um, within a certain level of adjustment of some straps or
Right.
whatever, that this was going to be a mask that worked in the way it's intended, sits on the head the way it's supposed to, and so kudos for all the work you've done, and as we go here again, rinks opening and all that kind of stuff, and I get to actually put some masks on some heads. I know it's something that I should see a great deal of success with. I'm pretty confident in it. So
Yeah. It's been exciting, even with the challenges of 2020. The helmet and the whole line of helmets, it did extremely well.
Yeah.
all over the world, really, and all the way up to our pros in Europe using it, switching just like that. Guys that have been wearing a certain shell or a brand for their whole 10-year career and stuff, and just switching right into it. So it does have that effect of you put it on and you're like, for a lot of people, it'll be like, this feels better. It just feels better. You know, we got a couple straps you got to tweak here and there, but this fit is it. And that's exciting to see that people buying, you know, helmet sight unseen, really, in some cases where, you know, they've used everything Warrior and they're like, can't wait to get the mask because I know you guys are going to do it right. And I know that it's going to fit me well. And so that's been really exciting for me. And like you said, now that things are being lifted, I hope we blow the doors off with a lot of stuff, with people being able to go in store more and actually go through that experience of trying it on in different models.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be weird, you know, like am I going to still remember what skate fits like what, you know, when I'm you know, when I get back you know, fully in the store and all of that. So here's something I've been contemplating probably over the last about 2 years, and you might have some insight into this. Is the wood foam core goalie stick dying? Like, is it? Are we? I think it was even Latoya, our great Warrior sales rep that we have, our in retail rep. I think it was even with her that I even said, I think we're in the window now where you're just going to start to see everybody using a composite, or as you say, south of the border, composite goalie sticks moving forward. Obviously on the player side, it's you know, you get grandfathers who want to still use a straight Sherwood or whatever, but category wise, obviously you guys make great sticks. Do you see that as the movement going towards there?
For sure. And that's where in last year we launched the M series stick, the M1, for the first time. And that was, for us, the first time we've ever had two families of sticks that were both composite. You used to, for a while, when the CR1 came out, and even sticks before that, it was always in every other foam core, then composite foam. And, you know, we just saw everyone sort of going right towards composite, and rapid adoption at the NHL. We went from having, I think it was, I'm using round numbers now, it's been a few years, but like around 25 to 30 goalies using foam core Warrior sticks. And then the next season, the same number was all in composite.
Just flips around.
Just flipped overnight. And then that really reflected as well with a lot of end customers and retail, people driving towards composite. There's certain intangibles that come with it: weight, durability, longevity. One comes with a warranty, one never did. And when you're looking at equipment as an investment, which goalies are very accustomed to doing, a $99 composite versus $110 foam core, the one that's less expensive comes with a warranty, the one that's more expensive doesn't. Your mind and your purchasing decision will go towards that. So the most cool or exciting thing about the composites and what we've gone towards now is there's so much you can do with weights and how that translates directly to your blocker speed, that a lot of goalies don't talk about is the shooting aspect of it. And you see it with player sticks where there's low kick and there's quick release and things like that. And we've started to more or less recently, with the launch of the M series stick, bring that same conversation to a goalie stick. So goalies, some goalies will pride themselves on being the Ron Hextall of puck handling, or the Marty Brodeur of puck handling. Other goalies will say, I don't ever want to touch the puck because I just can't do it. I'm not good enough. And
the Archer's Herbe of puck handling.
Sure. So what we've done is we've isolated in the paddle area, trying to create different performance benefits with the kick point. So you have an M series stick, which has the unique paddle geometry on the back of the paddle, and that drives the flex energy more towards the blade. So it's like a quick release goalie stick. It's a ton of fun to shoot with. But what it does that really translates to a goalie is it makes lifting the puck a lot easier. And that's really challenging when you throw a trapper on your hand and your blocker's way up here. You're trying to get leverage, let alone trying to lift it, get it over a forechecker, all that stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, you're behind the net with like this much space, and you've got to do it just like this. So having a low kick stick really elevates someone's ability to be and execute puck handling stuff.
Yeah.
There are also goalies, which the V series stick, we just launched the V2, which is a continuation from the V1, and then prior to that, the CR1, which was the composite stick that really put us on the map. But that
great stick.
Not a conventional, you would call it conventional now, a paddle shape. And that is more of like your mid kick. So you're getting a lot of your power and your control from your trapper hand, where you're pushing and leveraging the stick. So your hard tape to tape passes, you're the goalie that says, I'm going to try to clear the zone and get that forechecker that just jumped off a line change. Like that is the stick that brings you the power and the stability. So you're seeing even like the player aspects of what people are looking for out of a stick, bringing it more into goalie sticks now, because it's been an untapped reservoir.
Yeah. Do you think we've got to the point where the feel is there?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think especially with our V series stick, we've had 5X in our composite sticks in the was the CR, and then it was in the V1, now it's still in the V2. And that's a vibration dampening gel that we fuse into the shoulder area. And that takes a lot of the stinging or the pinging kind of feel in your hand pretty much completely away from, what people using composite sticks 10 or 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah. So, the early ones were super like rigid, but not even from a performance, any performance benefit standpoint. They just were what they were, because that's how they were made, and you'd feel it right up the arm if you'd stop a shot. Like you'd almost 2 layers of tape on it just to dampen. And if you're a guy who doesn't put tape on the shaft, then you're, but obviously, they've gotten quite good. I got a 3-pack of custom ones downstairs in my colors, and I used one once, but really nice feel, and firing just missiles off it. I love, especially if I'm playing pickup or something like that, and you get a second when no one's shooting on you, and you just grab a puck and you go, can I get it all the way? And you're like, I can get it all. Oh yeah, it actually goes where I want it to go now. So that's definitely, I guess that's gonna end up being the reason you see the wood and that sort of disappearing, is just that. Yeah, now there's no excuse where it's like, I just like the feel, because it really kind of is going away.
Right. When you get used to using a lightweight stick, it's almost like there's no going back. It's just like using a lightweight pad, or it's just I'm fortunate to test the higher end sticks, and you get kind of used to it, and then I'm testing the other sticks too, and I'm like, this just feels heavy or something of it. But I know it's like that for a lot of goalies too, and that's when I see goalies notice the blocker speed, the benefits of a lightweight stick.
Oh yeah.
They switch to a Pro Plus or a Pro, and then their next stick might be the $119 version or something in the family, and they're like, like my arms, it just you don't realize it. It's once you try it, it's hard to go back. But
yeah. So one thing I did want to focus on, I think, is one of the nicest things about fitting kids with Warrior gear. This goes to some of our smaller goalies. Especially in the past few years, what Warrior has done better than anybody else is make their goalie gloves, and even pads too, but in particular the gloves, where you constantly see and hear from parents saying, my kid, he can't just close this glove. Like, we put the glove on and it's gigantic, it's practically fallen off. But with Warrior, going back to even all the way down to your youth glove, which was a nice, good protection, functionally closing and opening, just a dynamite little glove. And then you had the same thing in a junior, which wasn't a ton bigger. And what you've really done for the goalie at the bottom end of the size scale as opposed to the top end of the size scale is really made that accessible, where they do have something that functions properly, that has a decent level of protection, that's made like the tiers as you go up. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and sort of that focus and sort of what led to it?
Yeah. So for us and Pete with the visionary aspect of things, it's all about, like, especially junior and youth. That's really when you're capturing a beginner goalie. Maybe they're in season 2 or 3 if they started really young. They have a goalie parent,
first set of gear that didn't come from the league.
Yeah. And so at that age, and it's all about understanding the position and learning movements. Can you get up and down? Can you pick up your stick? It's about simplifying the equipment so that it makes playing goalie easier, and it's more fun, and then they fall in love and stick with it. And so for us, it's all about proportionality and mobility, simplicity for any youth or junior size equipment. When you get to intermediate is when you really see the aspects of a senior size or a pro featured leg pad.
Yeah.
And that's where the goalie has dedicated most of the time to becoming a full-time goalie, working with a private goalie coach, going to summer camps and things like that, and starting to develop their craft, really.
Yeah. And where they actually need that level of build.
That level of build and certain features or strapping options become more prevalent. So at junior and youth, though, it really is just about ease of use and making the equipment light so that they can learn how to shuffle and T-push and butterfly slide and slide one way, but then gain their edge and push back the other way. Because if you don't have that foundational skating, for sure, the last thing you want is your equipment inhibiting that too. So
right.
It just is exciting to see a little kid jump out with Warrior stuff on, because they slide around and how did that kid make that save? And it's so fun. And that's where I think you get into a lot of problems if you take your senior pad and you shrink it to intermediate, and then you shrink it from intermediate to junior, junior to youth. You get these features and stuff that they don't really fit, even though you're proportionally downsizing, and they just don't really have a purpose for a goalie at that age or skill development levels.
Yeah, you do see it. You definitely do see it across the marketplace, where you've got, it's like
a youth pad shouldn't look like a mini version of a pro pad.
Right, exactly. It's really got to have some differences to really meet the needs of a child that's that small, that's not utilizing the equipment necessarily in the same way yet, that's not as proportionally strong, that's not as proportionally heavy, that's not as all those things. So that a lot of that kind of goes right into it, and that's really why I bring it up, because I think it's one of the best things when you look at Warrior Goal as a whole entirety, that it's very accessible, and even from I think your youth and junior goal jocks are the best youth and junior goal jocks, because the kid is not walking around looking like they're carrying a football between their knees,
Right.
So I think it all goes into really keying in on, like, knowing who is going to wear it,
Right.
And I think that's a definite big strength, that we've seen, and that obviously we should see continuing forward,
Right.
because it is so successful.
And the chest and arms, another example of that too, where a goalie will start out in a junior small medium, and if they have a big growth spurt, because it's so simple and parents are used to the adjustments, they'll know, like, oh, they probably skipped the medium large and they need to go to the large extra large. Or if they're on the higher end of the junior and the large extra large already, they just know there's a similar construction but more protection in the next size up from Warrior at intermediates. We don't have any holes in our fits or in our product lines or anything like that. So the progression, when you have a younger goalie, we've always got a good chance of keeping them in our equipment. And that's what we've seen with the grassroots approach we started back in 2013, 14, 15 is the 9 or 10-year-old now that was starting out with us in junior equipment now getting to 13, 14, 15 and the elite younger athletes. So it's been a lot of fun to see that progression with our customer base too.
Yeah. No, definitely. So, or maybe before we wrap up, what haven't we covered? What else is new? What's something else that you're really excited about? Something you're looking forward to coming out that you want everyone to know a little bit about?
Big thing that just came out last week was our new stick customizer for the V2 line.
Nice.
So a couple of exciting things there. If you're not familiar, we do 3-packs in the Pro Plus model or the Pro model. So you don't have to just get the highest end price point. You can get the Pro, which is one step below it. But a couple of new things to that are we've got tinted carbon colors, which are pretty sweet. We've also got colored chrome options. So it's not just silver, like red chrome, blue chrome, a bunch of different stuff. And then for us, for the first time, we're offering full right as a custom option on the V2 stick customizers. It comes in our mid pattern, but you get all the same color options and things like that you can choose if you're left-handed. And then on the left-handed side, we have the 3 blade patterns of a twist, a mid, and a wedge. So it kind of covers if you look for something more open, something with a hook, or something kind of right down the middle. We've got 3 of those blade patterns, but I've spent even myself spent quite a bit of time looking at stuff. When you get to the tinted carbons and you match that with a colored chrome, it's pretty
cool. That is a very old school Warrior way to go about it. Warrior as a brand, especially on player side, has always been they've always brought the funk, they've always been able to do that. And I think it translates to, who buys the stuff and who gets excited about it. So that's pretty cool. Then I'm going to go check that out. I know I have my own Pro Pluses, like I said, that I have barely even been able to use. So I went with a pretty basic white, blue. I don't even think I got my name on them, to be honest with you. But yeah, hopefully we all get back out on the ice very soon. So Kirk Allen of Warrior Hockey, Warrior Goalie, thank you very much for joining me today. This was excellent. I can't believe the amount that we managed to cover. I think we did a good job of hitting all the bases. Thanks again for doing this. Continued success. I will hopefully see you soon sometime. Let's get that border open, hopefully. And all the best. Thanks again for joining me today.
Thanks a lot for having me. I had a great time.
Thanks for watching. And a big thanks, of course, to Kirk and Warrior Hockey for helping make this happen. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll let you know when more content is available. We'll see you next time on Got Hockey.